Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we cut through the noise and really try to get you up to speed on the most electrifying topics shaping our world right now. And speaking of electrifying, I mean, it feels like every single week brings some new breakthrough in AI development. Large language models, LLMs, they're rapidly transforming, well, everything from complex scientific research to our everyday apps. The pace is just incredible and honestly sometimes a little dizzying. Our mission today is to give you a shortcut to being truly well-informed on where AI stands, like right now. We're going to dive into the cutting-edge capabilities of LLMs, but also unpack their surprising limitations and the incredible innovative engineering efforts happening behind the scenes. Think of it as peeking under the hood of tomorrow's technology.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we've pulled from a really fascinating range of sources. We're looking at robust official research papers, in-depth technical reports, and even direct, unfiltered user reviews from vibrant online communities like Reddit. This multifaceted approach, it ensures we give you a comprehensive real-world view of these advanced AI systems.
Okay, let's unpack this with one of the most impactful and frankly critical potential applications of AI healthcare. We're talking about how LLMs are being evaluated for absolutely essential clinical tasks. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher when patient well-being is on the line, right?
Indeed. Yeah, a recent study put 5 different LLMs, DeepSeek R1, OpenAI 3, ChatGPT 4, Gemini 1.5, and LLaMA 3.1 through a pretty rigorous test.
Yeah.
They used 300 real-world hospital discharge summaries, and these models were tasked with 3 key jobs: generating diagnoses, predicting medical codes, and assessing readmission risk.
Okay, 3 big ones. How do they do on the first one? Diagnosis.
Well, for primary diagnosis generation, the LLMs really shone. This was definitely their strongest area. Reasoning models like OpenAI 3, the ones designed to perform more multi-step logical deductions, they achieved an impressive 90% accuracy rate.
90%. Ooh.
Yeah. And the non-reasoning models like LLaMA 3.1, which are more focused on, let's say, efficient pattern recognition, they weren't far behind at 85%. This is where you really see the promise of their analytical power.
That sounds incredibly promising, almost like a medical Sherlock Holmes. But here's where it gets really interesting, though. What about something as nuanced and complex as medical coding? That's not just understanding, it's detailed classification.
You're absolutely right. And that's where things kind of fell apart. When it came to predicting ICD-9 medical codes, these are complex international codes for billing, health stats, all that. All models struggled significantly.
Yeah.
LLaMA 3.1's accuracy dropped sharply to just 42.6%.
Oof, that's a big drop.
Huge drop. And Gemini 1.5 lagged even further at just 14.6%, 14.6. Even OpenAI 3, the high performer in diagnosis, only managed 45.3%. It's a massive drop-off, showing a clear disconnect between that high-level understanding and precise, granular classification.
And what about the readmission risk? That sounds pretty critical, too.
Also proved to be a major challenge. Non-reasoning models hovered around a concerning 33% to 41% accuracy, while reasoning models like DeepSeek R1 did perform better at 72.66%. That still indicates a substantial gap, doesn't it? A gap between AI performance and the kind of human precision required for such critical tasks, where even small errors have big consequences.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, and the future of healthcare? Are we talking about AI doctors taking over or something else entirely?
Well, these findings give us some very clear, crucial insights. While LLMs show undeniable promise, especially in diagnosis generation, their current limitations in complex tasks like medical coding and risk prediction mean they absolutely cannot replace human expertise. Not yet, anyway. Errors in these areas aren't just minor glitches. They can lead to major billing mistakes, flawed analytical data, and most critically, they can directly impact patient safety and discharge planning. Imagine an AI incorrectly coding a procedure or miscalculating a patient's risk.
Yeah, the ripple effects could be huge.
Yeah.
Liability, transparency, big questions there.
Exactly. So the real takeaway here isn't just about AI's current limitations, but maybe a profound shift in how we envision medical support. Think of AI as an indispensable co-pilot. Maybe. Not a solo surgeon. It redefines human expertise, right? Making it less about rote tasks and more about critical judgment, ethical navigation, nuanced understanding. It's a hybrid future.
So the path forward isn't replacement, it's integration.
Precisely. We need task-specific fine-tuning on massive clinical data sets. We're also looking at the necessity of hybrid human-AI workflows, where humans provide essential oversight. Bias detection, correction mechanisms are crucial, as is continuous monitoring. The key for you is that human oversight remains the bedrock for safe and effective healthcare integration.
That exploration of AI in healthcare really highlights the profound capabilities and critical limitations of these models. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But how do engineers actually build them to be so powerful? And maybe more importantly, how do they make them practical and efficient? That brings us to some of the really interesting engineering challenges behind the scenes, specifically this idea of sparsity. You hear a lot about how massive LLMs are, but how do engineers make them leaner, faster, less resource hungry?
Yeah, it's a constant battle against computational cost. The core idea behind dynamic activation mechanisms, this concept of sparsity, is to dramatically reduce computation and increase speed. It works by dynamically selecting only a subset of parameters or computational units to activate based on the input data. Think of it like a smart light switch for a massive building. Instead of turning on every single light, you only power up the specific rooms you need right now.
Okay, so it's selective activation. How does that differ from just like cutting parts out permanently?
Right, so that's static sparsity, which involves pruning fixed parts of the model after training. Dynamic is, well, dynamic, it changes based on the input. What's interesting is how some foundational components, like the ReLU activation function, naturally introduce a degree of sparsity. They can potentially save approximately 30% of computational resources just by automatically turning off parts of the model when they're not needed.
And there are specific techniques to push this even further.
Exactly. A technique called déjà vu takes this a step further. It proactively predicts which neurons and attention heads are active for a given input. For instance, in a large language model, up to 80% of the attention heads those things that help the model focus on important parts of the input. And up to 95% of the MLP neurons, the core processing units, can be made sparse.
95%. That sounds like a huge saving.
It is. This can accelerate LLM inference by 2 to 6 times at 75% sparsity. It's like only engaging 25% of the engine, but still getting most of the speed.
Okay, that sounds incredibly promising for efficiency.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want a faster, leaner AI? But is it always that straightforward? Are there specific model architectures or situations where this sparsity approach actually creates new challenges or even compromises performance? Maybe with a model like LLaMA.
That's a great question, and yeah, it definitely has its complexities. Research has shown that LLaMA models, which use different types of internal switches than the ReLU ones, they often underperform when dynamic activation is applied, particularly at high sparsity ratios. It's a bit like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. This optimization technique, while brilliant, just doesn't quite fit LLaMA's foundational architecture as easily.
Why is that? What makes LLaMA different there?
Well, these deficiencies are attributed to several factors. First, the inherent complexity of dynamically predicting these activation patterns in non-ReLU models. Second, the inadequate sparsity resulting from their native activation functions, they just don't turn off as much naturally. And third, the insufficient preservation of information that comes from something called KV cache skipping.
Okay, KV cache skipping. Before we get to that, how do they measure the impact of sparsity? You mentioned a sweet spot.
Right. To quantify this, engineers developed a metric called CETT, cumulative errors of tail truncation. Basically, how much accuracy drops when you apply sparsity. They found an empirically optimal threshold, a sweet spot around CETT equals 0.2, where model performance remains stable. For example, LLaMA 27B achieved about 67% MLP sparsity, and LLaMA 3AB achieved 45% with almost no performance loss, but only by using carefully tuned layer-specific thresholds.
Got it. And what about that KV cache skipping you mentioned? That sounds like a critical component for how these generative models work. How can skipping something vital not cause issues?
It is absolutely vital, yeah. Imagine the key value, or KV cache, as the LLM's short-term memory. It stores the context of previous words so it doesn't have to recompute them for every new word it generates. This minimizes redundant computations and significantly speeds up inference. However, skipping KV cache computation, specifically the key part for inactive heads or thoughts, can lead to substantial performance loss.
Why the K part specifically?
Think of it like having a perfectly organized recipe book that's the value, or V part, but throwing away the index, which is the key, or K part. You have the information, but you don't know which bits are relevant for this particular task without the K. So you can only apply this very selectively, maybe only skipping the V cache in layers with more than 50% sparsity, where the K part is still there to guide relevance. If you skip K, you're bypassing a critical part of how the model filters and selects relevant information, which can cause, well, significant deviation from the expected results.
So for you, the user, what's the key takeaway here when you interact with these models? Is it just a subtle difference in speed or something more profound maybe?
Well, it highlights the continuous, complex, and often painstaking engineering happening behind the scenes, doesn't it? It's all about making AI models perform better, faster, and more efficiently. Even as researchers push the boundaries of what's possible, they're constantly grappling with these fundamental trade-offs and limitations. It's a delicate, ongoing balance between speed and accuracy, constantly being refined. And it impacts everything from how quickly your AI assistant responds to the environmental resources required to run these massive models on a global scale. It's really a testament to the fact that even seemingly simple interactions with AI are powered by incredibly sophisticated, often imperfect engineering breakthroughs.
Moving on, let's take a deep dive into a prominent family of LLMs that has certainly made a lot of headlines. Google's Gemini models, specifically the Gemini 2.x series.
Right, the Gemini 2.x model family. This includes Gemini 2.5 Pro, 2.5 Flash, 2.0 Flash, and 2.0 Flashlight. Quite a lineup. Gemini 2.5 Pro is currently Google's most capable model. They say it achieves state-of-the-art performance in coding and reasoning benchmarks. What's truly impressive, I think, is its multimodal understanding. It can process and understand information from various forms, images, audio, text. This even extends to processing up to 3 hours of video content, understanding the narrative, characters, actions within it.
3 hours of video. That's a lot of context.
It really is. It's positioned as a thinking model that utilizes additional compute during inference to generate more accurate answers. It sort of deliberates on complex problems.
That's quite the resume. But what's fascinating here is that despite all that capability, real-world user experiences with Gemini models aren't always uniformly positive. Let's look at some direct feedback from online communities.
Yeah, the Reddit Gemini 1.5 Pro experimental review megathread offers some really insightful and at times contrasting feedback. It's quite interesting. Many users found Gemini 1.5 Pro to have awesome performance, particularly praising its mathematical reasoning. Users reported it accurately solved complex calculus and even international Olympiad questions, often outperforming competitors like GPT-4o and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It also seemed to excel at chemistry problem solving, which is, a highly structured but complex domain.
Okay, that sounds like a dream for certain tasks. So where do the frustrations come in? How do we reconcile those two very different realities? Stellar performance in some areas, yet major issues in others.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? User concerns included significant memory retention issues. Some noted the model can't even remember what I said 3 prompts ago and feeling lobotomized by its apparent short-term memory loss. Hallucinations where the model just invents facts or experiences were also a frustrating issue for some users.
The hallucination problem again.
Yep. And there were mixed opinions on its coding abilities. Some noted not much improvement for general coding tasks, while others praised its use for mathematical coding specifically. It's a good reminder that even advanced AI models aren't monolithic in their capabilities. They have strengths and weaknesses.
That makes sense. Different tasks expose different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
How does that compare to the official reports on the newer 2.5 models? Did Google, address some of these pain points?
Well, they certainly claim to. The official Gemini 2.5 report highlights significant advancements in areas like code. For example, live code bench performance apparently increased dramatically from 30.5% for 1.5 Pro to 74.2% for 2.5 Pro. That's a huge jump.
74%, wow.
Yeah. They also report improvements in factuality using Google search integration to synthesize information and multilinguality. And crucially, it notes that 2.5 models are substantially better at providing safe responses without interfering with important use cases or lecturing end users, and are much more helpful than 1.5 counterparts, specifically addressing those over-refusal issues of the 2.0 models, where they'd sometimes refuse to answer perfectly legitimate questions.
Okay, less lecturing, more helping. That sounds good. Now for something really fun and quite unexpected, Gemini plays Pokemon. This sounds like a great unconventional way to test an LLM's long-term capabilities and agency.
It truly is. Yeah, the Gemini Plays Pokemon, or GPP experiment, involved Gemini 2.5 Pro autonomously playing the classic video game Pokemon Blue, and the agent actually completed the entire game.
No way. The whole thing.
The whole thing. It took 813 hours in the first run and a faster 406.5 hours in the second. This showcased really impressive capabilities in long-term planning and problem solving. Things like complex spinner puzzles, multi-map Safari Zone traversal, even Sokoban-like boulder puzzles, all requiring sequences of actions across different environments. It often reasoned over context of over 100,000 tokens and found paths up to 150 actions long.
That's incredible planning. Any specific examples that stood out?
Yeah, there was one instance where it creatively escaped a game soft lock, basically getting stuck by using the FLY move. Apparently, that's a solution not found in typical gameplay guides. It demonstrates truly emergent, almost human-like problem solving.
Wait, so the model literally used FLY to escape a soft lock. That's not just following rules. That sounds like a spark of genuine creativity. How surprising was that for the researchers?
It seems like it was quite surprising, yeah. But I imagine there were some struggles too, right? Because nothing's ever perfect.
Absolutely. While the creativity was astounding, the model struggled with raw screen reading. It needed text translated directly from the game's RAM. Persistent hallucinations were a major issue, like it became fixated on a non-existent TA item, or context poisoning, where irrelevant information led to repetitive illogical actions, like just running in circles.
Huh, okay. Getting fixated on imaginary tea, that does sound like a quirk.
Definitely. It also ran into topological traps in puzzles where the obvious path was incorrect. And it even exhibited what researchers termed agent panic in low-health situations, leading to noticeable reasoning degradation. It's almost like he got stressed out and started making bad decisions. Agent panic. These stories illustrate the incredible leaps AI is making in complex environments, but also its very human-like struggles with logic, context, and even panic. It really reminds you that intelligence is multifaceted and not always what we expect. Let's broaden our view now to the overall safety landscape and the competitive future of AI. The more capable these models become, the more critical safety becomes, right? Not just for the user, but for society at large.
Indeed. And Google emphasizes they've undertaken extensive efforts in AI safety and security for the Gemini 2.5 models. They use automated red teaming, where other AIs actively attack the model to find vulnerabilities and failure modes. This apparently helps discover novel issues and accelerates mitigation efforts. They're touting Gemini 2.5 Flash and Pro as their most helpful models to date while maintaining robust safety metrics.
So helpful and safe, they claim.
That's the claim. They've also shown increased resilience against indirect prompt injection attacks, though it's interesting to note that 2.5 Pro is apparently less resilient compared to Gemini 2.5 Flash, indicating subtle differences in their architectures maybe.
And what about privacy? That's always a huge concern with LLMs remembering data.
Yeah, crucial concern. The report states that Gemini 2.x models memorize significantly less data, including personal information, compared to prior models, so reducing the risk of data leakage. They also utilize an internal evaluation system called the Frontier Safety Framework, or FSF. This is for evaluating critical capability levels that could pose severe harm.
Okay, critical capabilities. Like what?
Well, while Gemini 2.5 Pro shows increased capabilities in areas like CBRN, that's chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and cybersecurity, it was able to solve 74 out of 76 easy, 11 out of 13 medium, and 1 out of 13 hard challenges in a cyber offense suite. It has not reached any critical capability levels that would deem it immediately dangerous according to their framework.
That's reassuring. But any close calls?
Well, an alert threshold for one of the lower-level cyber capabilities was reached, meaning the model could potentially significantly assist with high-impact cyber attacks. This prompted Google to increase testing frequency and accelerate mitigations, showing a proactive approach to potential risks, or so they say.
That's a lot to process and some serious implications to consider. What does this all mean for the big picture ambition of artificial general intelligence, or AGI AI, that can perform any intellectual task a human can?
Right, the big goal. This brings us to Google's new world model, Genie 3, which is seen as a significant step towards AGI. World models are essentially AI systems that learn to predict how the world works, allowing them to interact with convincing simulations of the real world. This is crucial for training robots and autonomous vehicles in virtual environments, think warehouses or city streets. They can learn and fail in a safe, controlled setting before deployment.
So better training for robots. What about for us humans?
Well, it also has fascinating potential human applications, enabling you to experience realistic simulations for training or exploration. Imagine learning to ski a challenging slope or just walking around a virtual mountain lake generated immediately from simple text prompts. Imagine learning almost anything simply by simulating it.
That's a potential game changer for so many fields. Education, training.
Wow.
And how does LLaMA 3 factor into this evolving AI landscape? There's been a lot of buzz about it challenging proprietary models and potentially shaking up the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, Meta's LLaMA 3 is indeed touted as the most capable openly available LLM to date. That's their line. Now, while Meta claims it outperforms Gemini 1.5 and Claude Sonnet in their own evaluations, Other independent benchmarks, like those from Artificial Analysis, place LLaMA 3 somewhere between Gemini 1.5 and the top-tier GPT-4 Claude Opus models. On the highly competitive LMSYS chatbot arena, where models go head-to-head based on user votes, LLaMA 3 is currently ranked number 5. GPT-4 and Claude Opus are still tied at number 1, so it's not quite at the very top, but it's definitely punching well above its weight for an openly available model.
And speaking of openly available, there's a pretty lively debate around that phrase for LLaMA 3, isn't there? Is it truly open source or something else?
That's a really important distinction, yeah. And it's a hot topic in the AI community. While the model's weights, the core parameters that make it work, are available for download, many argue it's not truly open source by the strict OSI, the Open Source Initiative definition. This is mainly due to usage restrictions. For example, companies with over 700 million monthly active users have to negotiate a new license to use it commercially, and you cannot use LLaMA 3's outputs to directly train another LLM to compete with Meta. So while it offers significant accessibility, it's probably more accurately described as weights available or maybe source available rather than fully open source in the traditional sense.
Got it. Semantics aside, though, what's its practical impact been for developers and users like us? Has it made a difference?
Oh, its impact is undeniable. Absolutely. It significantly reduces vendor lock-in for businesses and developers. It enables deep and highly cost-effective integration of AI into their products and workflows without being tied to, say, just OpenAI or Google. We're already seeing over 800 LLaMA 3 variations fine-tuned by the community, adapting it for all sorts of specific tasks. And it's driving incredible innovations in faster, cheaper hardware. For example, a company called Grok can generate an astonishing 800 LLaMA 3 tokens per second.
800 tokens a second. That's basically instant.
Pretty much. And at a fraction of the cost of running models like GPT, this really points to a future of near-instant LLM responses at dramatically lower prices, making powerful AI much more accessible to everyone.
The rapid advancements we've discussed mean you're living through an incredibly exciting dynamic period where the capabilities of AI are expanding at breakneck speed, while at the same time crucial questions of safety, accessibility, and even its fundamental definition are being actively shaped. It's truly a frontier unfolding right now.
It really is. So, to recap our deep dive today, LLMs are incredibly powerful tools, making significant strides in areas like, say, complex medical diagnosis. Yet, as we saw, they still grapple with fundamental challenges in tasks like precise medical coding and even something as basic as memory retention in a conversation. The innovation in making them more efficient through techniques like sparsity is ongoing, constantly balancing speed and accuracy, really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Their abilities are also reaching new frontiers in complex agentic tasks, as we saw with that surprisingly human-like journey of playing video games. And crucially, the commitment to safety seems to be evolving alongside their power, with active testing and mitigation efforts trying to keep pace with responsible AI development.
So, as LLMs become incredibly capable, but still exhibit these unique quirks and limitations like getting stuck on a non-existent TEA item or experiencing agent panic, and as even the most sophisticated safety frameworks are tracking these distinct forms of intelligence and behavior, what new human-AI collaborations might emerge? Perhaps human insight won't just be about training the AI, but about truly understanding, navigating, and maybe even learning from its distinct forms of cognition and behavior, rather than simply expecting it to mimic our own.
No.
Something to think about.
Absolutely. We encourage you to consider how these insights might shape your own understanding and interactions with AI as it continues its rapid evolution, and how you might choose to collaborate with these fascinating, complex, and constantly evolving intelligences.